Hello and thank you for listening to Dragon Wagon Radio. My name is Jake Lloyd Bacon, co-founder of the network, just popping in briefly because it is that time of the year once again. March 2024 marks the 7-year anniversary of Dragon Wagon Radio. For 7 years, we've done the best we can to bring you the most professional podcasts possible. We continue to cultivate communities of people from all over the world, bonded by their love for a wide variety of topics. Dragon Wagon has produced 20 different podcasts, over 1,800 individual episodes with millions of downloads, all completely free to you. So we humbly ask, in honor of our 7th anniversary, that you consider showing your support and playing a part in keeping our shows free always. There are tons of ways that you can help. First and foremost, please check out our shop at dragonwagonshop.com. A fantastic collection of high-quality merchandise is available to you for reasonable prices. You can also visit our support page where you can find a link to make a donation directly and even an Amazon wish list. That's at dragonwagon.com/support. Some of our shows have individual Patreon accounts where they offer additional material. Please consider becoming monthly patrons if that's available. Additionally, leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify costs you absolutely nothing and goes a really long way to help. Lastly, consider sharing your favorite podcasts with your friends. Share clips or quotes on social media. Most shows have their own accounts, but you can also follow @It'sDragonWagon on all major social media platforms. So thanks again for another fantastic year, for being a dedicated listener, and as always, for being the best part of Dragon Wagon Radio. Happy anniversary, and here's to another great year of your favorite indie podcast network. Now let's get this show started. It's the greatest mystery in literary history. A divisive question with highly contested answers. Who was the writer behind the pen name William Shakespeare? Welcome to Don't Quill the Messenger. Here's your host, Stephen Sable.
Welcome back, fellow Quillers, to another exciting episode in this 6th season of Don't Quill the Messenger. I want to thank you all for joining us. It's always a pleasure for me, of course, to invite this guest back to the program. You all know her and love her, probably not quite as much as I do. But here she is, my fabulous wife, Annie Sable.
Hello, Quillers. Thrilled to be back again.
Annie, one of the reasons that you're back here again is because I wanted to do this episode on this particular play because I think it's one of those plays that is often far too misunderstood. And it has received a really bad reputation throughout the modern era because of the way it's perceived by most of the people who read it. And I wanted to get to the bottom of that and have you here not only as a female voice on this topic, but also as an actress and an actress who has played so many of the prominent female roles and who will now be playing this role very soon into the future.
Very much looking forward to it.
So the first thing I want to ask you about as an actress is, why do so many actresses, many of whom will, if you ask them about this play, have plenty to say about why it's such a horrible play, yet they still want to play this role? Why is that? What's going on there?
Well, just to give you all a clue, may I share the title of the play?
Oh, yes. Well, it's in the title of the episode, but in case you didn't read the title of the episode and you're just tuning in, we're talking about the Taming of the Shrew.
Oh, good. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't like planning for some big reveal because you hadn't said it yet. I thought you were like maintaining some type of big mystery or something. So yes, what Stephen is talking about is the role of Katerina, or Kate as she is called, so not so lovingly or so lovingly by Petruchio and other members of the cast. Kate, or Katerina, in Taming of the Shrew, which I am going to be playing this summer in our 3rd season with the Rogue Valley Shakespeare Company, and very much looking forward to it. But I think one of the reasons why there are so many mixed feelings about Kate is because she is over the top in ways that women, I think, love to get to do and don't often get to be in their real life because they would be labeled, for lack of a better term, a bitch, because she behaves in such a way that is she's crass, she's cruel in many cases, she's violent, she strikes multiple people during the course of the show. She even uses a musical instrument to strike a character. She is an over-the-top embodiment of like this female freedom, which is not typical of more restrained female characters. And obviously all women in the era that it was written in would never or extremely rarely get to behave in such a manner and actually get away with it. And the truth of the matter is that because of the nature of the play and the nature of Kate, I think that's one of the reasons why Kate is revered and many women want to play her. But the difficult thing about Kate is that even in spite of the fact that many, many women want to play her, there are things that you have to, as a female, kind of excuse about the play or just shuck that over to, oh, it was written by a man and it was written in a not so feminist period of time, which makes it a very problematic play. So it's not that all women want to play Kate for all of Kate, because there are still parts of Kate that you have to just go, oh, well, I enjoy playing Kate, but we'll just shove that monologue at the end under the rug, and we don't know why that was written that way, or, there's no reason why she should have been so submissive to Petruchio at the end. So there are very many problems with Kate. But overall, I think that there's amount of freedom that an actress would get by playing Kate and being able to embody that on stage.
But I have to ask you then, so in order to truly understand what I think it is you're saying, then I would ask, let's look back 400 years and let's look at the true nature of the play, which is a play within a play. A lot of people don't know that.
Sure. I mean, oftentimes that play within a play part is cut because it's kind of strange.
No, not the play within the play, the exterior
Sorry.
parts,
yes,
right?
the play, not the play within the play. The play.
The Sly and the Family Stone stuff is cut. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I mean, obviously it's not Sly and the Family Stone. It's just a joke. But it is this character named Sly, and it is this deception that's being put on for his benefit.
Correct.
You could argue in a way that's trying to teach him something, and that's a whole different topic about like what that lesson would be for that character. But you're right, a lot of people cut it. And when I have produced and directed the show, I have cut it because I think it bogs an audience down and it makes it really difficult for them.
Agreed.
But it does then, to some degree, take off this edge that the play has as being performance inside performance,
sure,
meaning very melodramatic and over the top. Then pair that with the fact that it's set in Italy and it has what many have recognized as commedia dell'arte stock character basis.
Well, the Shrew itself is also very much a stock character.
Very over the top, right? And so melodrama is important for a lot of reasons because it is this hyperbolized version of humanity. When we look at that as a source of humor, I think we have the ability, and I think what the playwright is trying to demonstrate through the play is this ability to laugh at humanity from within and without, and at the same time learn from those over-the-top sarcastic embodiments of what we can be, who we often might be, whether we realize it or not.
Yes, well said. Well said. And I think that the understanding of Kate comes from, if you look at Kate as a realistic character, it is extremely problematic. And as you stated, Stephen, so many of the characters in Taming of the Shrew are stock characters, not just Kate, but the Shrew is a typical, a stock character that, kind of crass, crazy female, for lack of a better term, I guess. But Kate is the way that Kate is written is that she is, like I said, able to behave in ways that are completely over the top and that would be just totally not accepted from women. I mean, not only in Elizabethan era, but I mean, what type of woman would get away with, physically striking people? Especially, you consider the scene between her and Petruchio. They're not a few lines in before she's hitting him. Like, what kind of person gets away with smacking people within a couple of lines of just meeting them?
I'll tell you what type of person. A 14-year-old boy who is playing the role of Kate with a wig and in female costuming in the 1580s of Renaissance England and striking Hortensio over the head with the lute. And the audience is laughing their asses off.
Right.
Because he's also playing it so over the top and maybe even playing with the game of that he's this teenage boy and Hortensio is throwing himself at him. And
sure.
No, stop it. No, boom. It's like Tootsie. It's like the 15th century, 16th century Tootsie.
Sure, absolutely. I was just reminded of the production that you did at the Archway, the theater we had back in Los Angeles, the all male production. The man who played Kate, he was spectacular and it was fantastic. That was an excellent production. And I think it added too a little bit of, like you said, there's this feeling of, obviously that's a man in women's clothing. And engaging in such a way, the interaction between the men becomes that much more hilarious. That set aside, though,
you have to qualify that we played both sides, and I have to say, I think that, I always love this play, and I've done it a lot, and it's the first role I ever played, and it's the first Shakespeare play I ever directed. The first role I ever played
set the precedent
was Petruchio, and the first play I ever directed was The Taming of the Shrew.
Mm-hmm.
And all these years later and all these productions later, and now embarking upon my 5th Shrew coming up.
Wow.
I'll tell you, having been involved with productions, 2 of them, back to back, because we took one cast and moved it from one place to another and it changed and became, but basically 2 versions of all male casts. And you learn so much more about the play. There's so much more insight you have as a producer, as a director, as an actor, like all involved of how the play, what it was when it was first written, what it was meant to be and what it became. And what we did, and you're right. So our Kate was actually a professional drag actor.
He was a gorgeous woman.
He was beautiful. He was beautiful, magnificently beautiful. He had his cleft in his chin, which was really interesting part about him. God bless him. But and then we had our Bianca was more of the, the young girl, the young sweet girl who the men were throwing themselves at, who was obviously not a young sweet girl,
no.
but a young man.
Not at all.
And we played that aspect of it. So we got both sides of both worlds in those productions. And we did that for a reason, on purpose, to demonstrate how a man playing a woman could be done in a variety of different ways.
Yes, exactly. No, it was achieved very well. It was a very good production for that way.
But here we're about to do a gender specific casting. And you're about to play Kate, as you called her. These aren't my words. You said it. Kate the bitch. The Taming of the Bitch, not Taming of the Shrew.
I did it. I said it. Well, yeah, I don't think bitch was a common noun used for, or descriptor for females back in Elizabethan era. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think, Stephen, like I said, one of the reasons why so many women, I think, want to play the role of Kate is that there's something freeing about getting to behave in the way that Kate does and have it almost be acceptable. But then it does pose some very interesting problematic situations. And one, I mean, I think one of the, especially in today's day and age, where with, the rise of feminism, these feelings of kind of down with the patriarchy, that type of feeling, there are times in the play when there is downright abuse exhibited to Kate from Petruchio. And that's one of the ways that, again, it becomes, I think, difficult for people to excuse that. So I myself don't all completely understand the dichotomy of Kate and the female relationship to Kate. I know plenty of women who've been, I want to play Kate so bad. And I admit, it's never been one of the most exciting roles, coveted roles that I've ever wanted to play. And one of the reasons why is because I've always found it kind of difficult to stomach some of the things that come from the play. One, just like I said, in situations, yes, sometimes I know you have to look at it from the lens of when it was written. And like you mentioned before, the whole melodramatic stock character style that the play is written. It doesn't change the fact that Petruchio and Kate are downright abusive toward each other. Like I said, she strikes him within moments of meeting him. That being said, he does some things that are pretty near torture to her, starving to death, depriving her of sleep, that type of thing. So a strike versus, torture, it's varying degrees, but essentially, yes, in any type of lens from today's day and age, that looks like abuse.
Okay, let me tell you, let me ask you this. What if I were going to do a concept version of this production? I was going to modernize it.
Okay.
And Kate is an addict.
Okay.
Go with me for a moment, right? Kate's an addict, and that's why she has this erratic behavior.
Okay.
Including violence and torturing her own sister.
Right. Tying her hands.
Yeah. And
dragging her around.
As you say, striking people, including a man that she's just met within moments of meeting him. And then later a teacher who is supposed to be there teaching her music. And what does Hortensia say? Frets call you these? And bang, she smashes the lute over his head. Now, a lute is a very substantial piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
You could kill somebody if you hit them the right way over the head with that type of piece of wood. With the strings and all, as taut and tight as it is, and as hardened as they get, that could be deadly. So you pointed out, she's very violent.
She is.
And dangerous.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's make her an addict.
Okay.
In a modern setting.
Mm-hmm. What is she addicted to?
And Petruchio, it doesn't matter. Heroin, speed, meth, cocaine.
Okay, going there.
Right?
All right.
Is that too far-fetched in the modern world?
No.
Especially because, well, we'll get to this in a moment, but especially because it appears that she lives in a household where her father neglects her in favoritism to the other daughter.
True. So she'd have to...
But we'll get to motivations for Kate's behavior in a minute.
But I'm getting some, yeah.
But okay, now Petruchio says, I can help her, I can save her, but it's going to require tough love.
Okay.
Is it tough love? Is it torture? Does he really starve her to death? No.
I mean, obviously not. She doesn't die.
No, well, he deprives her of food. He deprives her of sleep.
Yes.
But P.S., in his depriving her of food and sleep, it's very obvious that he's also depriving himself. Because at those meals, when he refuses the food, he doesn't eat either.
Yeah, but he can go down to the kitchen at any time and grab a chicken leg and call
maybe,
it good.
Maybe that's true.
She's not allowed to.
Okay, that's true. Okay, and there is that scene between her and the servant about pancakes and mustard.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a really funny scene. But okay, I'm with you. But then he also talks about depriving her of sleep. And he says, I'll throw this way the coverlet and that way the sheets. I'll rail. So he's expending a lot of energy himself and staying awake as well in order to prove his point. And he says to us, he has this monologue that I think is very misinterpreted in the delivery of the monologue most of the time. And I think the key to the monologue that he delivers to the audience, he basically he breaks the fourth wall, almost Iago-esque.
Yeah.
Except he's not a villain. And he says, here's my strategy on how to deal with her. She must be shown that this is what she looks like to the world, that this is the way she behaves. And I don't know any other way except for to hold a mirror up to her and be like she is, to show her that this is not suitable behavior.
What are the actual first couple of lines of that monologue?
And then he turns to the audience. He says at the end, if you know a better way to do this, tell me. It's charity to show.
Charity to show. But I asked, what are the first couple of lines of that monologue?
Oh, you don't like that he calls her a haggard and a kite,
No,
and he refers to her as a wild bird?
Give me the first line. Give me the first line.
This is the way to tame a shrew.
Is the very first line of that monologue?
No, it's what he says
not.
at the end.
I asked for the first line of the monologue. I know you know it.
I don't.
You don't?
So, don't have it.
Okay.
What
does
is
it not
Do you
begin?
know it?
I think I do. Forgive me if I butcher it. And maybe my interpretation will help click it in your brain. Isn't it something along the lines of, and so I begin my reign?
I think that's in there, yeah.
Yeah. Total domination.
I think you might be right. I think there might be something.
Especially
like that.
considering by the end
but
of the
that's
play,
not the point.
he essentially has her crawling on her hands and knees going, yes, master, I do anything for you.
That's
no,
not
I'm being
true.
overdramatic
And there is
again.
no such scene anywhere in the play.
At the very end, she shows, and I agree with you that this is a very misinterpreted final monologue. And I agree with you, especially, I mean, sweetheart, you are the best director I've ever worked with. I know I'm biased.
Sweet. That's very nice. It's very kind.
He is, though, and I've worked with plenty of them. His interpretation of the partnership that they enter into helps to excuse a lot of the vast problems
okay,
with
but
how
don't jump ahead. We're not there yet.
Okay. I didn't give anything away. I'm just saying
I thank you for your compliments, honey. I do.
I'm just saying that to tie it back to what I was stating is that there is an element of that monologue that not just hints at, pretty much fully blatantly states that he is exercising his domination, his male dominance, which is not completely strange considering how patriarchal a society at a time that it was for a man to state that he is exercising his domination over a woman. We're all used to that. It's the extent and the extremes that he goes to do so that I think becomes so problematic and can only be excused if you're looking at it from the lens of yes, that this is a melodrama, and yes, it is taking a lot of stock characters. It is essentially using what would otherwise be extremely problematic and dramatic situations and creating humor out of them. And as long as you're looking at it through that lens, it makes for a very entertaining watch. I still don't fully grasp why so many. One of the women who I work with came to see Much Ado About Nothing, and within Much Ado About Nothing, we were advertising for the next season, which does include Taming of the Shrew. We've been prepped and knowing that we were going to do this for a while now. So when we advertised Taming of the Shrew,
a very successful organization has a multi-year plan. Wow. What a novel concept.
So she comes to see me after. She said, great show. She loved it, but she is so excited because Taming of the Shrew is her absolute favorite. And I'm always my jaw just kind of drops whenever I hear, obviously, I'm used to it at this point, but I just also kind of question when women state that Taming of the Shrew is their favorite. And I think it has to do with like I said, the extent that Kate behaves. There's a certain level of women going, she gets away with so much and can behave so freely, but at the same time, they're like, okay, it's so funny when she actually does the scenes where she's being tortured, and abused. But the way that it is written and the lens
Wait a
through
minute.
you're putting
What
it
kind
at
of
does
torture?
create that
Well,
humor.
Explain torture.
Sleep deprivation and food and starving is torture.
Okay, here's one thing I will point out to you, and I think this is a great comparison to make. All right, Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
In Romeo and Juliet, when Juliet says to her father, "I won't marry Paris,"
Yes.
and he doesn't know that she's already married Romeo, and so she's like freaked out because I can't marry two men. That's a mortal sin, and all of that, right?
Sure, right.
So she says, "No, it's too hasty. I need time. I'm not ready. I can't do it." Right?
Okay.
He threatens to strike her. He says, "My fingers itch." He raises his hand to beat his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes his wife and the nursemaid to pull him away.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
In Much Ado About Nothing, Leonardo, when he believes that Hero has been stained.
Yep. He goes to strike her.
He goes to strike her and has to be held back by the entire wedding assembly.
Right.
When Kate, for the third or fourth time in their initial meeting, has smacked and hit and struck Petruchio, he finally, does he strike her back? No. He finally says, "If you do that again, I will retaliate. Enough." And he's serious, and it makes that scene a little scary for that moment.
It does,
it's tense
for that
because
brief
it's been
moment.
fun and light and whatever.
Fun.
And he finally says, "Enough. I won't put up with that." And she gets it. And that's the beginning of that relationship between her. He's the first person who ever says to her, "No,
you cannot behave that way.
You cannot. This is not."
She's essentially a child
tolerable
in so many ways.
Yeah. And that's what he says to the audience. He says, "I don't know what else to do except for to teach her that this is not the proper way to behave." So in that sense, now bear with me. Is he like an Annie Sullivan with Helen Keller?
Maybe.
You see where I'm going? Like from a dramatic, theatrical standpoint, like why are we condemning him? He teaches her, he changes her.
I don't think that Annie Sullivan ever deprived Helen Keller of food, though.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Not until you use a fork. Not until she forced her to use table manners.
You're right, forcing. Yeah,
right? Before you could eat.
But still, there was a way for her to achieve the end, the goal, right?
Well,
to teach a lesson.
Look, when a creature behaves like an animal,
there is not a
food
clear,
is the number
there is
one.
not a clear goal, though, in mind for Kate to achieve, to tell her that he has not made it clear, I think, to her that she, in order to achieve a goal, you have to know, in order to get X, you must do Y, right?
But he does. So there's that wonderful scene with the tailor and the haberdasher, right? Where he does make it very clear to her. Look, I am willing to provide you all these creature comforts. You can have the best hats and the best clothes and the best food and be the mistress of this house. And you can control these servants. But you can't abuse them. And you can't abuse me. And if you fulfill your duties as a partner in this relationship, in this home, you will get all the privileges, including, P.S., we've been invited to your sister's wedding. And if you want to go and you want to look nice and you want to have beautiful clothes, you have to earn it to go. Or no, we're not going to go.
But the extent that it is taken, I don't know. I mean, that's the question. And I think it ties back to the lens of the melodrama, is taking it to that extreme. Would Kate submit and learn the lesson with lesser degrees of what he exercises upon her? We would never know, but it's very extreme. And I think that, again, is just tying back to the dichotomy of Kate. Is that, yes, okay, she is this extremely bombastic, larger-than-life type of character that I think for many female actresses go, how fun to play. But at the same time, her change over into the partner of Petruchio is so... It's just the method in which it's done.
In that Taylor haberdasher scene, he goes on a rant.
Yes.
Not at her.
No.
In feigned defense of
Right.
her.
Right.
She's not the victim of his tirade. The poor tailor and haberdasher.
Yes.
The poor musician who's trying to teach her the lute. The poor servant who is just delivering news. The poor younger sister who doesn't understand why she's being tied up and abused by her older sister.
No, like I said,
he
she's
is now behaving
extreme
towards these poor innocent people the way that she behaves towards people. And what does she say to him? I pray you, husband, be not so disquiet. And he says, I must be, because that's offensive what they said and did to you.
Mm-hmm.
He's not abusing her. He's
not in that instance.
He's demonstrating to her why this type of behavior is not tolerable. And she finally learns. She finally goes, oh, I get it. It really sucks when somebody in the room is acting like an asshole.
Yes. I see your point. I think that the extreme measures that it's taken to, again, still can only be excused by the lens of the melodrama and the over-the-top way in which it is written. I do agree that there is an essence of showing a mirror to her, which is his tactic, and one of the reasons why it is such a funny play is because she is so extreme, and then his methods of making her, taming her, are just as extreme, if not more so. So, and that's the play, is that melodramatic, commedia-influenced, stock character-ridden romp. And I think that is one of the reasons why people say it's such a enjoyable play. It's a popular play. It's still one of the, I would say, probably one of the better known Shakespeare plays that people still perform in spite of the fact that it is problematic in so many ways. I don't know. Maybe it's becoming less and less performed because people find it difficult to overcome that and continue to look at it through the lens of this over-the-top melodramatic commedia influenced play. It doesn't change the fact that, and I think this is one of the biggest problems. I'm not saying Kate is a problem, but what makes her a interesting character.
No, Kate is a problem. That's the point. That's the point of the play. She's a problem, and it's a problem that has to be fixed. It's such a problem that her father says, I need her out before. I'm not even going to entertain anyone taking away this sweet, beautiful, wonderful daughter I love so much until this banshee is out of my household.
You know, he's so selfish. He's like, I can't live with just her. Whereas, you talk about sometimes the comparisons between Kate and Beatrice, and there's this sense from Leonardo to Beatrice that, yes, obviously it's one of the reasons why Hero gets married, is that Leonardo is completely okay with the fact that Beatrice will get old and never get married and just, stay with him forever.
I'm pretty sure Leonardo thinks Beatrice is going to be that person in his life who's
going to take care of him in his
changes
old
his
age,
diapers
yes.
and make sure he's comfortable in his old age. Sure, yeah.
Whereas Baptista is like, get this woman out of here. I cannot live with her alone. I will die. She will kill me. It's going
ironically, though, that's an interesting comment there, though, and an interesting direction for the conversation, because ironically, I believe by the end of the play, Kate is the daughter who will be there for Baptista. And that's part of the irony of the play, because by the end of the play, you see that Bianca is actually now the bitch.
Oh, she always has been very self-serving.
Sure, she's played the game the whole
Yes,
time.
The whole time.
And
She's not a redeeming character.
No,
you
not at
don't
all.
have sympathy for Bianca, even though her sister's tying her up. She's not a sympathetic character.
There's a reason why at the end of the play, things change drastically. But again, I don't want to get ahead either. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about why is Kate the way she is when we first meet her.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of the. You hinted at the fact, obviously, that her father obviously favors her younger sister. We don't really know why that is, and it's kind of a chicken and an egg question. Is her behavior what caused her father to dislike her? Was it her father's behavior toward her that made her start to behave in such a way? So we don't know the answers to those questions. I don't know that there is much in the text truly that provides an inclination as to why Kate is the way that Kate is.
Well, there are no moms in this play.
Yeah, Disney and Shakespeare. Get rid of the moms.
But it's true because, Baptista has these two daughters. There's no mother. She's not mentioned. She's not referenced.
There's
Nothing.
not the female.
Lucentio's
model.
father, Vincencio, shows up. There's no mention of the mother. There's no presence of the mother.
Mhm, no mothers.
Petruchio talks about early on in the play. He talks about his father having died and he's inherited his father's estate, which he indicates and we come to learn is decaying.
Yes.
And he's broke.
Yes.
But nonetheless, no mention, there are no mothers in the Taming of the Shrew. And I think that's purposeful. I think there's a reason for that. And that is you don't want to contrast what's happening in the story with motherhood in any way whatsoever.
Okay.
But also it opens the door. And this is a conversation having produced and been involved in this play 4 different times before this one now that we're about to embark on. Oftentimes I've had these conversations with actors, and you know how I am as a director, that I'm very big on backstory and I'm very big on the actors knowing what has occurred in the scenes the audience doesn't see.
Yes.
Right? So one of the conversations I've had with actresses and actor who played Kate is Kate's motivation. Like, why is she like this? And why does Baptista obviously favor Bianca? And one of the things we came up with, and tell me what you think about this. One of the things we came up with is that Kate and Bianca may be from separate mothers.
It's extremely likely.
And so from a perspective of Baptista, maybe he loved one mother more than the other, or the other one reminds him more of her mother than the other. Maybe it's actually Kate who reminds him so much of her mother that he can't relate to her. He can't connect with her. And she realizes that there's a distance between them. Maybe Kate's mother died in childbirth and he blames the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
But Bianca's mother died years after.
Sure.
Whatever. All of that is possible. There's nothing in the text that says that can't be. Is that taking this comedy too deep? Well, melodrama, the key to melodrama is you must play every role as seriously and as deep as you can. That makes them more funny.
Sure, absolutely.
More funny? Funnier? That makes them funnier. It makes them more funny.
Well, I don't think that, I mean, obviously the lack of a motherly presence is very apparent in this play, and I don't disparage the idea that that might be the cause of Kate's behavior, and I think that is a strong backstory. I think that is one that makes the most amount of sense. I think it would be interesting to take that. I like the idea of, Kate being potentially motherless since her first moments in the world, because then that eliminates any type of female role model in her life just in general as well, to teach her how to properly behave, to teach her how to. And then I think, there is this feeling of the balance, right? We talk about I think generally we realize that, yes, obviously at the time when this play was written, it was a very patriarchal society. However, you still had the figurehead and the most dominant person in England at the time as Queen Elizabeth, who happens to be one of the most renowned and well-known monarchs ever to rule in history. So there was this balance, I think, that women could find of how to behave and how to exude and how to exercise their own strength and achieve things like their own amount of power, whether that be being a queen or whether that just being how to run their household in a way that is not overpowering, but at the same time is still their own empowerment, if that makes sense.
And
but Kate has never been taught that.
It's interesting you'd say that, and you'd make that reference about Queen Elizabeth. There are at least 2 recorded accounts, and if there are 2, there are a lot more that didn't get recorded. But 2 recorded accounts of Elizabeth lashing out at her ladies in waiting.
Uh-huh.
One, she stabbed through the hand with a fork.
Oh, wow.
Because she served her incorrectly at the table.
Oh.
And one, she grabbed her finger and snapped it in half.
Oh, dear Lord.
And I forget the reason why. But yeah, like you want to talk, like she had a temper. She's the queen. She's a monarch. She could order them dead.
Yeah.
A fork in the hand and a broken finger is nothing.
That's nothing.
Compared to you lose your head.
You're still alive.
Yeah. But that's a real thing.
So I think that there is a lot of, like you said, there's a good motivation behind Kate having absolutely no female figure in her life from childhood, her earliest moments, to show her how to exercise her female power in the way that is best allowed to her without becoming a bitch.
But she does show her vulnerability in the scene where Baptista comes in and chides her and says to the men who are there, I will not marry my younger daughter till my older daughter. And there are 2 different moments, 3 moments where Kate shows her vulnerability. One is that moment when she says to him, you always favor her. She basically calls him out. You always favor her. And I must dance at her wedding day.
Right.
Right, type of a thing.
Dance barefoot at her wedding day and lead the apes into hell.
Yeah. Right? It's total Beatrice reference there.
That's it.
But then there's also the moment where she's been with Petruchio and they've played their game, and then he just tells her point blank, your dowry has been agreed upon.
Right.
It's done deal.
Right.
And she blows up at her father.
Yes.
How dare you, what you've done to me. Right. And then the third one is on the wedding day when Petruchio doesn't show up on time.
Yes.
And she cries.
Yes. Yeah.
And Baptista says, go, child, cry. You have every reason to cry. I cannot blame you now.
Right.
To weep. Even if you weren't this wicked shrew, this would be a good reason to go and cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think those are really important moments too in the character arc of who Kate is. But I do think that there is a very strong element in her that is so jealous of Bianca, and it's Baptista's fault. And it's the way that he has treated Bianca and allowed Bianca to get away with stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the way he has treated Kate.
Yes.
And I think there's something in the play that is a commentary about that.
There's a feeling that Kate has pretty much been left to fend for herself. Like, I kind of get that feeling, right? But Baptista dotes on Bianca. Everything's about Bianca. I love Bianca. But it's almost like, this is kind of a silly parallel, but like, the adopted child who gets kind of thrown into the family and is left having to do all the chores and pick up everything.
Kate is Cinderella.
Where my brain actually went to is, because I love this so much, but like, Les Mis, when, the Thénardiers have Cosette and they like just shuck her aside and she has to do all the cleaning and fetch the water and all the work.
Okay, that's
and
right,
Eponine
theatrical.
gets all the cute clothes
Sure.
and the little, gets doted upon. And then ironically, obviously that flips throughout the course of the play.
Well, and interestingly enough, ironically, at the end of Taming of the Shrew, things flip.
Yes. So I think there is an element, like I get that from Kate, is that she almost has this feral feeling about her because she's not had that female presence in her life for at least a very long time. And I like the idea of, and I think I'll go with this for my own backstory, which is that she's not had a female figurehead in her life since she can even remember. And so and aside from that, just not having that female role model, all of the favor has been put to Bianca for whatever reason. And so she's just been left to fend for herself and make her own way. And there's almost this sense of, one, from Baptista not caring, so not caring enough to teach her how to properly behave or make sure that she has a female role model that can, a governess, a maid, someone, a nurse who can influence her to be a stronger, better female and not behave in the way that she does. She's just been kind of left to discover all of that on her own. And obviously it's created a lot of anger within her, but it's also, she has this feeling of just not being properly taught how to behave appropriately in society. She's extremely feral. Nobody else, like I said, in any other Shakespeare play hits people as much as she does. And that's where I agree with you in the sense of why Petruchio's method is, while so extreme, is truly not that much more extreme than how she behaves, because she's almost like this feral wolf that's just been left to teach herself how to be
She's
in the world.
She's a wild animal who needs to be
tamed.
Tamed?
Yes, tamed. Yes. And that obviously that's the point. But I think that and that's what I mean, is that I don't dislike Kate. I don't I'm very much looking forward to playing Kate, obviously. I'm extremely looking forward to getting to share the stage with you and have that dynamic work out the way that it does. But there is this sense from me that her arc is still confined to that melodrama that is that part of that play, which is one of the reasons why, again, I will enjoy playing Kate. I like Kate. I'm excited to play Kate, but it's never been a role that I've really wanted to play. It's not been a Beatrice. Have been dying to play Beatrice. Portia is a role that I will only get to play in this scene that we're about to do in Minnesota, but will likely never get to do a full-length production of, but would absolutely love to play. Kate has never been one of those roles for me because I feel like her arc is so it's not as nuanced as
you're right. There's no nuance to it, but it still comes in steps, and there's still magnificent, dramatic steps.
It is.
And I think you are selling her short.
But it's just so extreme is what I mean, is that she starts off, again, like a feral animal that needs to be tamed, like you said. And so there's less, she's more of a two-dimensional character in the sense that she goes from being so extreme, striking, hitting, behaving in such a way that would never be excused by a female in society, and somehow has just been allowed to get away with it because Baptista has this attitude of, oh, well, that's Kate and she is what she is, but at the same time, don't let me live with her alone, so I have to find somebody to marry her and just take her away from me, even though I've essentially raised her to be this person who nobody wants.
Okay, wait a minute. What if that's his tactic in order to keep Bianca, because he believes that no one will ever actually marry her?
Ooh. Interesting.
What if it's about he can't let go of his favorite little girl.
But that's a deeper element to a father-daughter relationship that I don't think could be expected.
Well, and you know what? I'll tell you this. Something about the play that has always disturbed me is there's some indication that the relationship between Baptista and Bianca isn't all great. Like it might be weird. Just saying.
Okay.
Just saying.
Okay.
And I think Kate intimates to that too. Like she's like, well, oh yeah, like you want her, like she's your favorite.
Do you think he...
I'm just saying there's a weirdness about his affinity for her. It changes though. So there are so many dynamics that change in the play. Baptista changes. Kate changes. Petruchio changes.
She changes.
Hortensio changes.
Yes, there are. There are many changes.
You know who doesn't change? Gremio doesn't change.
No, Bianca doesn't change.
And Tranio doesn't change.
Yeah, they're pretty consistent.
Bianca just reveals herself.
Yeah, sure.
Lucentio doesn't change. He just becomes browbeaten. So there's a lot of things that happen, I think, in the play. And there's a lot of morals to the story that are revealed at the end.
What I mean is that Kate's change is there, but she starts so extreme, and then the transition is extreme, and then she just becomes this other side. It's less... Yes, it's less nuanced, it's less layered, there's less of a depth to her. And that becomes the exercise for the actress, I guess, which will be a welcome challenge, is to create that depth where it is not necessarily written as well as I believe it is written in other female characters.
Can I tell you my
author.
favorite scene in the whole play?
Of course.
And I think it is the aha moment for Kate. And it's the moment that we see what Petruchio's been trying to teach her more than anything. And her realizing...
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Her finally realizing what he's been trying to teach.
Is it the scene on the road?
It is the scene on the road when they run into Vincencio. Lucentio's father, who is coming to... what he believes give the blessing to his son's wedding.
Right.
And here they are all on the road on their way to the wedding. Lucentio's father, Vincencio, who is coming to watch his son marry Bianca, Kate's sister, and he runs into Kate and Petruchio. Petruchio uses it as a final teaching opportunity. And it's the moment that Kate finally gets it. Because a previous scene, they fight over whether it's the sun or the moon that is shining. And what he's trying to teach her in that moment is, in this world we live in, where I have to be our representative, I can't always explain to you why I'm making the decision I'm making. I need you to trust me. I need you to go with me. I need you to be my partner. And I need you to believe that everything I'm doing is in our best interest. If I say it's the moon, I need you to say it's the moon. Because if I'm saying it's the moon, I'm doing it for a very legitimate, important reason that benefits us both. That's the lesson he's trying to teach her there. And then when they run into Vincencio and he says, "Oh, this fair maiden, kiss her. She's so beautiful." And Kate says, "All right, I'm just going to go with you."
Yep.
And she praises Vincencio for his fair beauty. And she goes over the top and plays the thing.
Right.
And
meets Petruchio in this.
Now Petruchio looks at her and goes, "All right, let's play the other way." What is wrong with you? Are you crazy? This is an old man. What is you're a nutcase. And she says,
"My eyes have been so blinded by the."
And then she asks him. She says, "Is it the sun or the moon? You say, and I'll go with it." And he goes with it. And that's the moment. That's the moment it clicks for them. That's the moment the two of them have finally come to their mutual understanding that he is going to always protect and defend her and make decisions that are going to be the best for the both of them. But he needs to know that she trusts him and that she'll have his back. And that's what happens in the final scene. In the final scene, she realizes he would not call me to come forward if it wasn't for a good reason that's going to benefit us both. And I will come. And she does. And then he says, he gives her the opportunity to be the star of the night and steal the thunder from her own sister on her sister's wedding night at the reception.
Sure. Because it's so shocking.
Yes.
Yes. Nobody ever would have expected for her to have such an extreme change.
Kate's revenge, and Petruchio hands it to her. You are the prime daughter now. You are the one everyone is going to look at and marvel at and respect. And yes, and thank God that you're my wife. That's the beauty of that final scene.
Like I said, I think that the layers that you bring into it obviously help make the play. Adding those nuances, adding that layer to the relationship is what makes this play. It's still a very, if you add all of those elements together, the style in which it is written, the very over-the-top melodrama, with that commedia dell'arte influence, the stock characters, but then you add that layer of nuance into it, which actually makes these somewhat otherwise two-dimensional characters that just go from one extreme to the other, the impetus behind those extreme changes in this world. And that's what is going to make this a fantastic play. But I still see Kate as a moreover two-dimensional prototype for the better female characters that this author has written.
Well, I don't deny that she was an earlier character than Beatrice, obviously. Or who knows, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Beatrice came first and then he just tried to make a fun commedia version and threw Kate. But I think it's the other way around.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Kate scratches the surface. He's telling this story and for a reason. And I think also that Kate and Beatrice are reflections of two different women in his life too.
Well, and there are other elements that are similar between both of those plays, Taming of the Shrew and Much Ado About Nothing, and Much Ado is still very much a delightful comedy, but Much Ado brings about so much more of the layers and makes it more of a play about true humanity instead of these over-the-top situations, the melodrama, the stock characters. You mentioned yourself the lack of a mother figure. We have no idea where Beatrice's mother is, where Hero's mother is for that matter. While you have, in this case, two cousins instead of two sisters, they have very much a sisterly bond. You know, from Baptista to Leonato is a tremendous difference, but at the same time, that's still a father figure with two females in his life that he is essentially the figure over without any type of additional female in his world to influence these women. Now, there are other women of the household, but there's not that mother figure. I think that's a tremendous parallel.
And Baptista is definitely not Leonato in any way. Like, Leonato is the governor of Messina. He is wise. He is charismatic. He's jovial. Baptista is much more bumbling, exasperated.
Far more bumbling.
And obviously can't control his household, his daughter.
Right, exactly. But I think there are elements of Taming of the Shrew which are key kind of like situations that the author built upon to create the better play of Much Ado About Nothing.
And that's a great way to put it, because I think Taming of the Shrew is one of the earliest sitcoms ever written.
I wholeheartedly agree. That is a great way to put it.
And you know, what is commedia? Commedia is
the original sitcom.
It is situation comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every 30-minute, 23-minute, whatever today's standard is, but whatever little half-hour episode of whatever it is that you're watching today, you can thank Commedia, and you can thank Shakespeare's ability to incorporate Commedia into Western English-speaking art, and that changed the world. And then we talk about melodrama. Well, melodrama obviously owns its roots in that history.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't know is musical theater owes its roots to melodrama. Which owes its roots to Shakespeare's Anglicization.
Sure, we'll accept it.
Of Italian Renaissance art. And if you've ever been to Venice, there's Commedia everywhere in Venice.
Everywhere.
Because that's where it was invented in the 15th century. And obviously Shakespeare knew that and took it with him. And that's what this play is really a big homage to, I think. And that's one of the ways we're going to be performing it too in our production.
Which is absolutely how it should be done. Embrace the comedy, embrace the melodrama, embrace the influences of Commedia dell'arte. It's going to be a blast to play those characters. We have a great cast assembled too, that we were just discussing about how the roles and their characters and the actors in place creating those Commedia style characters. It will be an absolute joy to participate in. And we recently, I know you talk about this production often, the Mark Singer ACT production, which was a fantastic homage to the Commedia dell'arte.
So traditional that it almost takes it too far, in fact.
In some ways, yes, absolutely. But just complete embracing of all of those elements that do make the play very fun and very funny. And then it helps
makes it more funny.
I think it helps to examine Kate from that lens. And like I said, your analysis of the partnership that grows that grows between the two of them, her understanding of the societal roles that they both must play, but at the same time, the partnership that they may create between the two of them helps to essentially excuse the final monologue, which so many people just shove as a very submissive, okay, she's been tamed, but it's a very surface level examination of that monologue to, I think, keep it at that. It serves it far better to state that they have reached this partnership, this mutual goal.
Two aspects of this that I think are important to point out. One, what she doesn't know, what we as the audience know when we're watching, is that there is this, not only does she end up stealing the thunder and becoming the central focus of the evening with this monologue, but what she doesn't know is that prior to her arriving, her husband has made wagers with her now new brother-in-law, his best friend Hortensio, and her father, that she will be the better spouse. She will be the better partner.
Exactly.
And when she comes in and proves it,
wives.
When she comes in and proves it, she and her husband, she doesn't know this until the end. At the end, he turns to her and goes, by the way, we're walking away 120,000 crowns richer.
Made a ton of money.
Remember, her dowry was 20,000 crowns.
Right.
He increases that sixfold.
Yes.
On that night, because she trusts him and shows up when he calls for her and delivers what, like, she goes, I'm gonna believe that he knows what he's doing. And it works.
Well, it's a far more redeeming way to look at it than she's just been beaten into submission.
Imagine when later they go to bed and he turns to her and he says, oh, by the way, you're awesome. I love you so much because we are rich. We are going home rich.
So do you think there is actually love, or is it just
I do.
It's just a...
I do. And there are multiple reasons for that. But there's another point I wanted to point out here besides the money. Okay.
Which is
that if you were to hear Kate deliver that speech at the beginning of the play, let's say we meet them before all the taming. We meet them after all the taming. Let's say we meet them at this moment.
And then do like a flashback.
Right. My point being is, if you were to listen to any woman give that kind of supportive speech to her husband prior to knowing all of the mistreatment and the whole thing and the whatever, like if we don't perceive everything that led to that moment, do we judge the moment the same? Because how many times have we seen wonderful speeches given by spouses to their spouse and for their spouse saying, I would do anything for this person? What if it's a speech she gives at their wedding?
But there are elements of that speech that are not just supportive, but are absolutely submissive. Essentially stating that her role as a wife is to do whatever her husband tells her to do.
I don't think that's what she says. And I think what she does say is, and I would say this to you, if I can help lift you up by placing my hand beneath your foot, I am more than willing to do so. I think that's a beautiful sentiment from one spouse to another.
It is
I will put
sentiment.
my hand beneath your foot if it will do you some ease, if it will help lighten your load.
It is a beautiful sentiment, and it adds a layer to that monologue that is far more compelling, I think, than what is in the surface level writing of that monologue, which is...
Well, then this play just needs the right director, that's all.
If only I knew when. What I'm getting at with it is that there is, yes, I think that adding the layers of support will make it far more compelling, far more redeeming, truthfully. But that monologue is written far more submissively than it is as a statement of partnership. So you have to add that layer of partnership.
That's about how the actress or actor delivers the role.
Okay, but there are other Shakespeare, and this is one of the reasons why I love doing Shakespeare. And I love acting, and one of the reasons why I love acting is because I actually love to work at it. You know, it's people think play acting, just a lot of fun, right? But I actually love doing research and analysis and the line memorization and the character development and all of that work that goes into that. That's one of the reasons why I have always loved doing it. There are one of the things that makes Shakespeare is that there are so many characters where that's in the text. It's just there. This character is so well written, and there is so much development and wonderful, compelling arguments, and the beautiful language combined with who this character is and their development in all of these wonderfully compelling speeches. And that speech at the end of Taming of the Shrew is not that. You have to add that layer. No, to you maybe, and that's the development. Great. I look forward to developing this together through the course of rehearsals. But in the writing, just reading of it, that's why this is so hard. This is why so many, I think, again, the problem of Kate is, oh, she's great. How much fun to get to play the shrew. But what about that monologue at the end? Oh, yeah, well, that great submissive monologue at the end. You have to layer in the support, the partnership. You create that. He does not create that in that text. You add that in. We add that in as the actors.
Well, as Cecil B. DeMille said famously to an actress asking him about her motivation, well, what do we pay you for?
Right.
It's not my job. I'm the director.
Yeah, exactly.
Your job is to be the actor. Bring
Exactly.
it.
That's what. Okay,
Bring
so
it.
here we go. This is the challenge, right? I didn't have to work as hard to create those layers to characters like Beatrice. You have to work a little harder to create those layers to characters
that answers
like
the
Kate.
initial question of the episode, which is why do actresses want to play this role so bad, so much, so with so much zeal? Because badly, I don't want to say they don't want to play it badly. They want to play it well, but why do they want to play it? And maybe that's the answer. Is what they realize is
maybe
there
for
is
some,
more
yes.
room to play. There's more choices to be made. There's more backstory to develop. There's more dynamic to find.
I think
You mentioned earlier that you said, "Oh well, her arc isn't that great." You said her arc isn't that great because it's so extreme. And I would say, okay, well, would you rather play a character that goes from A to D or a character that goes from A to Z?
No, and it was to be like I said, it's going to be a blast to play the character that goes from A to Z. But Z is not always the Z that, for me, essentially, that the character arc from A to Z is not the nuanced, supportive partner character that you're spelling her out to be just in the text. We create that. You find that as the actor.
I say it's in the text.
Take that challenge. I disagree.
Okay, and so now I'm going to take you back to more of the beginning of the play, because one of the things that happens when they first meet each other is they both are immediately attracted to each other. They both immediately recognize that there's something there.
Yes.
And that's what gets built through the play. He says, I'll take her. I'm broke. I need a wealthy wife. I don't care. And then she walks in the room and he goes, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then
there's a definite physical attraction.
This witty banter that goes back and forth.
And there's an attraction of the mind as well.
Yeah,
yes.
This is going to work for me. He's all about it. She finds herself all about it too, multiple times in that scene, but then goes back to her, well, but I'm a shrew, and won't let herself give in. He teaches, one of the great lessons he teaches her through the play is give in. Love me, I'll love you back. And she doesn't know that kind of relationship. She's never had that kind of relationship, that
of course not.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, good word.
And that's also part of what he teaches her. Because he does. You asked earlier, does he actually love her? Yes, he absolutely does.
Well, but is it beyond and again, this is me just questioning on what I think, truthfully, a lot of people would see in the text. Beyond doing the deeper analysis, when you add these fantastic layers to it, which I believe comes from the amount of, knowledge that you have about the text in general, obviously the amount of times that you've done this play and studied these characters, to create those extra layers. I've seen I've seen a couple of productions of this play where the physical attraction is not something that the director really developed. But that adds that extreme layer to it, which is great because, yes, of course, make them that, there's almost like this lightning bolt type of feeling, right? There's a magnetism. Yeah. There's a magnetism.
He makes that very clear to her, too. He says, and there are things he says to her in that meeting scene, which is such a magnificent
It's a fantastic scene.
He says to her in that scene things that he truly feels. Thy beauty that doth make me like thee well. Is one, but another one he goes on, he talks about how she is straight and slender like the hazel twig, as brown in hue as hazelnuts and sweeter than the kernels. She's never heard anyone ever speak about her that way. And she succumbs to it a couple of times in that scene. And then no, I can't, no, I won't.
And I think what I'm saying here is that sometimes the interpretation, moreover, the very surface level interpretation, which is, again, the interesting part of this play, because we just talked about how it's a melodrama, it's influenced by commedia, there's these stock characters, so there is kind of this superficial aspect to it because it is so over the top, but you're putting into it already these elements of reality. Whereas so many people might just interpret that he's saying all of this in jest to chide her, to goad her, to, you know, create that animosity, that push, or whatever it may be, just so he can have fun. And that's the interpretation then again of Petruchio. Is he just this dominating, like, you know, slave master with the whip? I know that's a very extreme circumstance.
Wow.
But seriously. And that's why I asked if you believe there is that element of love. So what you're saying is those words that he states to her are absolutely genuine, where in so many cases it can be perceived that he is just jesting her and just joking with her. And then that becomes that very like, oh, okay, well, no wonder she is so submissive at the end, because he is there. He's forced her into submission. But if there is that genuine love to it, that partnership to it, that's a far more layered examination of it than he has literally just thrust her into submission.
Okay, so one of the major keys to that role, to the role of Petruchio, and one of the challenges for the actor playing that role, is to find those moments in the script where he demonstrates his genuine love for her.
You can't just make him bombastic.
No.
He's a very big character.
He is. He's Capitano.
Yes. Extremely. But if he's only that, then yes. Then you don't buy their partnership.
No.
Because then all you see is his domination of her.
He turns to her and he's like, he looks at her and he goes, oh, hi. Wow. And I don't know how many of you out there listening have had those moments, have had those feelings where you turned and looked at somebody and went, oh, hi, wow, okay, this is a thing. He is set out to accomplish what he needs to accomplish. And then suddenly the pot is so sweetened. And he proves that time and time again, including the whole thing, that whole moment. Again, I'll go back to the Taylor haberdasher scene. That is such an important scene to the play. The scene on the road, extremely important. Both of those scenes on the road, extremely important. And then that final moment where he says, so glad. Now, keep in mind, again, backstory, scenes that the audience doesn't see. So here are these men all gathered around the table, drinking brandy, smoking cigars, if it were more of a modern, but you know what I mean? Like, they've sent the women off, the men are all together, and then they start betting on whose wife is the best.
Right.
Like, first of all, that in itself is the worst moment in the whole play.
I wouldn't say the worst, but just adds one more, oh, this is such an extreme situation play, right? Right. Because men just sit around regularly betting on their wives.
But it only happens because Petruchio is bragging about Kate, and no one believes him. They won't believe him. And he says, all right, I'll prove it.
Does he go in with the idea of this being, is that his plan from the beginning?
I don't know. That's a great question. And that's a question I have to answer before taking the stage, don't I? If it's part of his ulterior motive, or if it's a something that just moment of opportunity.
Right. He seizes a moment. He hasn't gone in with the intention, but he recognizes it as soon as it's brought to his attention.
Okay, fine. If you're all going to doubt me, then I'm going to make you pay for it.
Interesting.
And so here's the thing. So now let's envision that the women are in their room. We don't get to see that. We don't get to see what they're doing, what's happening in the room with the women. Maybe they're drinking and gossiping. Maybe they're talking about who has the better husband. We don't know. What we do know is that first, Biendello goes to find the women.
Yes.
Goes into the room with the women and says to the widow, your husband would like you to come to him. And the widow says, no, I won't come to him. Biendello comes back. That's the part we see.
Right.
Biendello comes back and Hortensio says, what did my wife say? Oh, she says she won't come to you. Then Lucentio says, Biendello, go and tell my wife I command her. Then they each change their way. Right. Come to me. Now, in the other room with the women, Biondello comes in, turns to Bianca and says, your husband wants you. No, tell him he can come here if he wants to talk to me.
Right.
Biondello comes back. What we see is Biondello come back and say, no, she says you come to her.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, the room erupts, right?
Right.
Of course, Petruchio particularly is like, ooh, worse. And everybody goes, oh, well, you better pray your wife doesn't send back an even worser answer.
Right.
Petruchio asks his own servant, Grumio, go and tell your mistress to come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, there's Kate. Now, let's backtrack. Kate's been in the room. She watched Biondello come in and ask the widow and watch the widow give her answer. She watched Biondello come in and ask Bianca and Bianca give her answer. Now Grumio comes to her and says, you think she's stupid? You think she hasn't figured it out? She's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go. Something's up.
Yep, sure.
So she's
smart.
Right. That's another part of the backstory. That's a part of the story we don't see as an audience, but we should be smart enough to figure out that that's what's just happened. Kate just watched this happen.
Right.
And she's like, oh, I'm going to go see what my husband wants. These two blew it.
He's up to something.
Yeah, and these two just failed the test.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
What is your will?
Yeah.
And what does he say? Go bring your sister and Hortensio's wife here to me right now. Well, what if they will not come? Swinge me them soundly, he says. And she's like, really? Do I get to? Do I really get to just go in there and grab them by the arms and pull them in here? Oh, yeah, I'll do that. I get to be a little bit of that bitch I was at the beginning of this play right now, but then refine it.
Right.
Because then he says, tell them what duty they owe their husbands. The widow says, she will not. I say she shall. She will. I say she shall. And they're quiet. And Kate delivers the monologue. It's different. It's different setup then. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's all I'm saying. I think you have to look at it from that perspective, and you have to understand like that kind of aspect of it as the actors, as well as hopefully portray that for the audience so that they see it. And your hope is that she puts her hand underneath, she lays her hand on the ground. P.S. I canonized that because in their meeting scene, I have him take off his hat and lay it on the ground for her to walk. And she steps on the hat. She crushes it, kicks it away.
Okay.
Right? Then at the end of the play, she puts her hand down on the ground. If he was this abusive asshole, he could easily just step on
right
her
on
hand. What does he do? He kneels down to her, takes her by the hand, and raises her up and kisses her in front of all of them. Now, granted, he says, aye, there's a wench. It's true, but you have to put that has to be put into the context of the time.
It is. He's not all of a sudden going to turn into Prince Charming. That's not who he is. He's still going to be like, yep, that's my wife. There's a wench, because he still is Petruchio. And yes. Petruchio and Kate are they're a good match for that reason. I mean, they must drive each other crazy when they actually imagine the arguments and the shit that goes flying. But they are both very intelligent. They are both, I wholeheartedly believe. And I think that's one of the reasons why Kate is also so upset, is because she doesn't know how to best use the brains that she has. That Bianca doesn't, there's that element of the one-dimensional female docile ingenue style character. And then there is the character that is the more like a man female, I guess, for lack of a better term. The one who exercises the characteristics mostly attributed to a male. And Kate's dichotomy is that she doesn't know how to find that perfect balance. She doesn't know how to do it, but she's smart enough, and she has that. And if you create that partnership between the two of them that way, she's found her she's found that person, that partner that can help her become even more powerful than she ever was because of how to exercise and use the brain that she does have.
And here's an interesting looking glass perspective to Kate and Beatrice, right? So you just said Kate can cross that line and can act more like a man than almost any other female character. Beatrice laments that, doesn't she?
She does.
Right? Oh, that I were a man. I would eat his heart in the marketplace. Oh, that I were a man, or that I had any man who were willing to be a man for my sake. Right? That's different. She wishes that she could be like Kate in ways that she doesn't feel she can.
Right.
Right? What we learn is that Kate becomes more like Beatrice at the end.
Right.
And Kate and Petruchio and Beatrice and Benedict are like two of the best couples.
They are. They absolutely
in
are.
all of Shakespeare.
They absolutely are.
They are so well suited for each other.
Yes.
And in some ways, Beatrice and Benedict abuse, I'm putting that in air quotes, each other.
They do. They really, I mean, it's banter. But it is, in some cases, verbal abuse. They call each other some pretty nasty names.
They do.
They do.
And to other people.
In front of as many people as they can.
In each other's presence, and then also outside of each other's presence, behind each other's back.
Behind each other's back.
They say crappy things about each other to
other
other
people.
people.
Never physically have any type of altercation.
No.
But that is, it's the play of the verbal, the banter, the words.
So I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just asking that everybody have this kind of perspective on, because I love Kate and Petruchio. I think they're a magnificent couple. I think by the end they prove what a great partnership is capable of doing, and how you have to play to each other's strengths, and how you have to defer to your partner when necessary. That they've got this, and support them, and then also build them up. And it's true, Petruchio doesn't have as many ways to build her up because of the society they live in. But he does his best to build her up in every way. Because he loves her. He does. He truly loves her.
Oh, see? Listen, you're such a romantic.
Well,
You'll make everything a love story.
It is, though. It is.
He's just saying that because he's doing it with his wife.
That's not true. It's a great lesson in love on both ends, because then look at what Hortensio ends up with the widow, and look at how Lucentio and Bianca are. That's not a happy marriage. It's not going to be a happy marriage either. They make that very clear. Gremio, the old man, is the one laughing at the end.
Right.
Because he ends up
dodge the bullet.
The old bachelor. Yeah. He's like, oh, thank God I didn't have Bianca. I'd rather have my 10 milchkin to the pail, or whatever it is. It's one of his things he says.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be an absolute delight to work on this play. And I think that adding those layers, obviously, through the course of the rehearsals is going to make it a very dynamic production and performance. And I look forward to adding those layers throughout the rehearsal process, because I admit, it's not as easy for me to discover as it has been with some of the previous characters that I have played.
Well, I'm glad that we had this opportunity to talk about the play and share with the Quiller Nation some of our views about it, the battle of the sexes, the famous Shakespearean battle of the sexes, as it were. And this, in some moments during the episode was a little bit of a battle of the sexes, a different perspective about the play. But I'm glad that we were able to do what a lot of actors would call table work with regards to how our future rehearsals are going to go when it comes to the performance. And
see, you guys all just got to listen into our rehearsal. We're like, you know what? Let's kill two birds with one stone. We'll get some rehearsal done and record a podcast at the same time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of Quiller business. But before we announce the Quiller of the month, which is coming in just a few moments, I would like to share with all of you that there is still time to register for our giant event in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Guthrie Theater, April 12th. William Shakespeare, Esquire, was the bard, the greatest legal mind of all time. It's just 1 month away from this episode dropping. And you can join a room full of authorship super sleuths and legal eagles if you attend the event. Go to monumentalshakespeare.com, monumentalshakespeare.com, where you'll find all of the information, links to register to all of the events. And one of the things I'd like to ask you all, here's my special appeal to all of you. All of you who would like to see a shift in this paradigm of authorship attribution. Be in the room. If you can, please come join us. Be in the room. Be there to mingle with the hundreds of lawyers who will be in the room, who are going to be exposed to this, many for the first time, and be full of questions, filled with questions. Help answer their questions during the common periods, the breaks, the lunch periods, the gathering in the morning, the gathering after lunch in the afternoon. Be there to answer their questions and be a source of information for them. This could be one of the greatest outreach events ever if we can capitalize on every opportunity we have. So if you can be there as a super sleuth and expert in authorship, be there if you can. One thing I will tell you is there are only 5 rooms remaining at our special room group rate at the Depot Hotel, the Marriott. They converted this historic hotel into a modernized Marriott right down the street from the Guthrie. It's a beautiful space. It's also where we're going to be having our cocktail reception. Annie and the boys will all be performing at the cocktail reception. Do you have an idea of what your monologue is going to be for the cocktail reception?
I have an idea.
Okay. And then the 4 guys, we are bringing one of our top actors here from our company in Southern Oregon, and we're importing 3 of our favorite actors from our former company that we had in Los Angeles. You're going to be wowed by these actors. They're all fantastic. And so it's Annie and the boys. That's just the Shakespeare thing, isn't it? It's a Shakespeare thing. It's 17 male roles and 3 female roles. Anyway, there are only 5 rooms remaining at the special group rate at the hotel, and there are only 7 tickets remaining for the full marathon day, the Brittle Glory series at the Guthrie on the Saturday after our event. Yes, it's a long day. It begins at 10 a.m., and it probably doesn't end until 11 p.m., but they are providing like 2-hour breaks between the performances to go have a meal, take a little rest, maybe a little 20-minute power nap, whatever. We're going to be getting together. We'll be letting people know where after each performance, in between performances, where we're going to meet for lunch, where we're going to meet for dinner, to have discussion and talk about the roles in the show that we just saw. And you can be a part of all of that, but there are only 7 tickets left available to get the whole package of all 3 plays at our group price. And if you were trying to buy those individually, you can't. Some of the performances that day are already sold out. Henry V, which is the evening performance, is sold out. So the only way you can get into that show is to buy the package of the 3 plays through our group sales right now. So you can do that at monumentalshakespeare.com. And our sponsors have created, Annie, wait till you see the design, these commemorative medals.
So excited.
So everybody who attends,
I want my medal.
Everybody who attends the Friday event, the Shakespeare Files who attend the Friday event will get a silver medal. And if they attend Friday and the 3-play series on Saturday, they get a gold medal.
Yes.
And the medal designs, there's a few final designs that we're still it's been very difficult to decide. But basically what we have is Pallas Athena dressed as Lady Justice.
Okay.
Right. So she has her helmet and her spear, but she's also blindfolded and holding the scales of justice.
Nice. It's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what we're going with. So it's going to be awesome, folks. And the only way you can get one is you have to be there. So we do hope that you'll join us. And now, my beautiful guest host for this episode. P.S. Annie's going to be the MC at the event on Friday the 12th in Minnesota. So she'll be guiding us through the whole day.
Super excited.
Yeah. And she's also, as she mentioned, she's going to be playing Portia in the scene from The Merchant of Venice. But right now she's here to spin the wheel of destiny and announce this month's Quiller of the Month.
And now, presenting this month's Quiller of the Month, we have Ina, last name C-U. Ina C-U. I don't know if that's Ku or Sue, but Ina, you are the Quiller of the Month for the month of March. Congratulations.
I hope Ina, maybe it's not Ina. You know, knowing our people, knowing Quillers, are you sure it's not Ina see you and Ina see you too?
Ina might be very offended if that is the truth.
Well, I hope that she will watch for, maybe it's he. I hope they will watch for the email that producer Jake will be sending you with your special coupon code to select an item from the Quiller Swag Shop free of charge.
Congratulations, Ina.
So there you have it, Quiller of the Month. I want to thank all of our fellow Quillers, especially those who are members of our Patreon page. We couldn't continue all of this without you. And remember, the way to get there is go to our website, don'tquillthepodcast.com. Click on the red Patreon button. Bang, you're on the Patreon page. Or you go to Patreon/don'tquillthemessenger. Patreon.com/don'tquillthemessenger. There are new bonus features up, and I want to thank all of those who have responded to the latest entries. It's been very humbling to get your responses and to see how much people have enjoyed the last two bonus features. But this month's bonus feature will be
a watch along. Woohoo! Get out the popcorn, put on your movie, and join Stephen and I to watch Much Ado About Nothing.
That's right. We just did a little bit of talking about Beatrice and Benedict. Annie played Beatrice last season because we produced and I directed Much Ado About Nothing as the second season of our Shakespeare in the Park out here in Southern Oregon. And we're going to watch the Kenneth Branagh,
Emma Thompson
version, the all-star cast version.
Denzel, Kate Beckinsale in like her very first role.
Right? I forgot that she was in that.
Right?
Wow.
Keanu doing some of his best work.
Keanu, fellow Oxfordian. So yeah, and the way that works, when that comes out, it'll be really easy to follow because what it will do is we'll tell you in the beginning how to set your DVD, or if you're streaming it, like if you've downloaded it or you're streaming it off of a streaming service, we'll tell you where to stop and pause the video so that you're on the exact same moment we are. And then we'll give you a countdown like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. And then you can watch the movie in your home, in your living room, wherever, and be listening to our commentary of the film while watching the film. And you'll be moment for moment with us and listen to what we have to say about it. We have some very important things to say about that.
And we
movie.
promise to provide commentary and not just recite the play back and forth.
All right, whatever. No, she's right. She's right. P.S. Send us your requests and comments to contact@don'tquillthepodcast.com. Contact@don'tquillthepodcast.com. Do you have a film you would like us to do in the future? We'd like to hear it. You have comments about some of the episodes. You have comments about this episode. Send us everything you want to say to contact@don'tquillthepodcast.com. Our next episode features a return guest who, in his first episode, broke records for how many downloads all over the world. So look forward to that. And it's just one of the many great episodes we have coming here in our 6th season of Don't Quill the Messenger. Again, thank you for being here with us every fortnight. And until the next one, keep asking questions.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a rating and review in your podcast player. For even more, visit our website, don'tquillthepodcast.com. There you can find official merchandise in our shop, as well as a link to our Patreon. This show is made possible by people like you. We hope you'll consider showing your support by becoming a monthly patron, where you'll receive bonus material and tons of exclusive perks. You can also join in the conversation on our Discord and by following us at Don't Quill the Pod on all social media. All of this can be found at don'tquillthepodcast.com, don'tquillthepodcast.com.
It's Dragon Wagon.